Today I'm taking a look at the Asics Gel Nimbus 22 after 100 miles. 12.13 miles, 9 minutes, 31 seconds per mile, an average of 142 beats per minute heart rate for the run out there today. Enjoying some relatively seasonable weather out along the lakefront in Chicago. And with today's miles, I was able to get to the 100 mile point in the Asics Gel Nimbus 22. Now, before I get into my detailed thoughts about this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that was sent to me by Roadrunner Sports. However, neither they nor Asics is paying me to wear the shoe or to make this video. No one's paying me to do either of those things. And in any event, no one is going to ever get a chance to preview any of my footage or thoughts before you guys get a chance to see it on YouTube. Now, the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Asics Gel Nimbus 22 after 100 miles. Now, this is a shoe that Asics tout as its higher mileage shoe. The way that they're going to try to deliver that in this shoe is by putting a lighter formulation of gel in the heel and in the forefoot, as well as putting flytefoam in the midsole. And that was something that was really exciting to me because years ago I tried the Dynaflight, I think it was the Dynaflight 2, and I really enjoyed that shoe. I liked the foam that Asics had put in there, and I liked that it was lightweight and it felt good to run in contrast to what I would normally think of when I'm wearing Asics shoe. This time they've paired it with the gel so that way you could get a little bit more of a high mileage kind of combination into this shoe, and I think it worked really well. I liked the shoe right out of the gate when I initially tested it, and I continued to enjoy it as I started to put more mileage into this shoe over the last couple of weeks. Now, the shoe definitely looks very unusual, and it at the same time is very Asics-y, but doesn't look like an Asics at all, primarily because the gel looks different. I've never seen Asics formulate gel in this way, so that is nice to see that they're taking some risks, taking some departures, yet at the same time it still feels very much like an Asics, especially if you look at the description of the shoe online. Everything is like a jumble of acronyms. It looks like you're reading like military specs. You've got like the Trussic system in the midfoot to enhance stability. You've got AHAR on the outsole, which is Asics high abrasion rubber to provide tread and traction and over a long period of time. And you've got whatever they call the stuff they always put in the heel cup in the back here. Very supportive. I'm not someone who normally needs a lot of support in the heel, and so a lot of this stuff is usually superfluous and just a lot of weight for me, but it was a little, they took a lighter touch to it this time in the Gel Nimbus 22, and so I felt like it wasn't as heavy, it wasn't as clunky as sometimes I feel like Asics shoes can be, especially in this area back here. A lot of Asics shoes tend to be very protective around what's going on right around in this area of the foot, and I still feel a lot of that. I feel a lot of that kind of thought process going on into this shoe, but it got out of my way and it didn't really bother me in this shoe. And I actually found as I was getting into some higher mileage, I had 12 miles today, 16 miles yesterday, doing those back-to-back kind of higher mileage days. This shoe felt really great to run in and my feet were just absolutely enjoying it. Now I'm in the beginning stages of my next marathon training block, and usually when I'm starting to ramp up the mileage, I tend to feel a little bit of aches and pains in the back of the heel, usually not my left one, but in my right one. But I didn't kind of feel any of that last week as I head into a 60-mile week. This week I'll be heading into a 65-mile week, so the mileage is definitely going to be going up. This was a great shoe to be able to run in. Lots of padding in the heel and any of the parts of the shoe that will touch around your ankle. Lots of padding there as well, but it also seems like, again, they've taken more of kind of an edited approach to it, a lighter touch to everything, so felt comfortable to be in the shoe. I think the other thing that helps with this shoe is that the temperatures are cooling down, and so some of this stuff that normally would have really bothered me in the hotter months of the summer isn't bothering me anymore. It's actually becoming quite welcome. The other thing about the shoe to note with the temperature change is that they have this kind of flexible mesh upper on it. It's very breathable. You could see through it if you look at it in the light. So it's definitely letting a lot of air in. As the temperatures have dropped, I've had to kind of go to thicker socks in order to compensate. But once I did that, things worked really well. The tongue is slightly padded as well, and the laces are that like soft, thicker material, which all kind of goes to like that soft comfort that they're looking for this higher mileage trainer. And so overall, for higher mileage, something where I was running a little bit slower than usual, but looking to increase weekly mileage, I thought this was a really great shoe to have with me to be able to run in. Now, in terms of the wear, this thing is holding up fantastically. I'm actually surprised that I'm starting to wear down the AHAR, or the Asics High Abrasion Rubber, as much as I am. Not that I'm wearing it down a lot. There's still a ton of rubber on this shoe, and I can totally see why when I get some of you high mileage warriors out there that are telling me that your Asics have like 1,000 kilometers on them, that it's certainly doable in a shoe like this. I'm seeing somewhere in areas where I normally see the highest amount of wear, which is kind of like the outer part of the heel, in the back of the shoe, and then right around the midfoot. I am even seeing a little bit of wear up in the toe, which I wasn't expecting, but you could still see the word gel that's kind of imprinted in the rubber. You could still see most of the original tread markings that are in here. There's a couple of spots where it's starting to wear down, but nothing unusual for 100 miles. And this is easily a shoe that I could see that could go for several hundred miles more. So very impressed with overall the build quality of the shoe and how everything's working together. It's a little bit clunkier than a lot of the shoes that I normally run in. I'd say if I were to compare it to something else, it reminded me a lot of the Saucony Ride ISO 2, which has like a little bit of a platform feel to it. And I think that's intentional with a lot of shoes kind of in this category, especially with something that has a lot of rigidity, plastic in the midsole like this shoe does here. But it was less obtrusive than it was in the Saucony Ride ISO 2. So if you were to compare those two shoes together, I'd probably go with this one because I felt like with the way that it's not quite disarticulated here, but pretty close, I felt like my foot can kind of move in ways that was a little bit more natural for the shoe to move. In the Saucony Ride ISO 2, you kind of had one big platform on the bottom, so sometimes I felt like I was running on like a giant flip-flop, like in a bad way. This, I feel like I'm getting a lot of that support. I'm getting a lot of that cushion for those higher mileage days, those times when I'm out on my feet for 2 hours or more, while also it giving me support while some freedom to be able to move around. So overall, a pretty good package. Very excited about this shoe. Excited to see that there's some newer and more kind of modern, updated takes into the Asics line. Now, I know you Asics faithful out there will probably lament the design and lament some of the changes. But from someone who used to run an Asics almost 3 decades ago now, to be able to see that there's some Asics now that I'm starting to really like, it's a really welcome change, and I'm hoping to see more of this type of implementation in the future. That's all I have to say about the Asics Gel Nimbus 22 after 100 miles. If you have any other questions about the shoe, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to talk to you guys more about it down there. But before I go, I do want to remind you guys about the charity runner for this week. This week, it's Maurice Washington, who's running the Race for Research in just a couple of weeks, and he's going to be running for Heroes of Hope. Maurice himself is a brain cancer survivor, and he has an incredible survival story that he was gracious enough to share on his fundraising page. I'll post a link in the description in case you'd like to learn more. I was happy to donate $70 to his fundraising efforts, and I'd be delighted if you would consider consider doing the same. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video, and I will see you tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?